Let's take a dive into this beautiful theory, the attachment theory. This was one of my favorite um, aspects of the psychology field that I enjoyed learning about, even in school, not just even studying for this exam, but even in school, I was always so intrigued by the attachment theory. So here is just the overview of the attachment theory. John Bowlby, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Our early relationships with our parents, caregivers, guardians, whoever the case may be, but they shape, you know, how we are going to bond with anybody throughout our life. Isn't that something? Like the relationship that you have with your parents as a kid, as a child, is going to carry on with you through adulthood and how you are going to form relationships throughout your life. Our attachment styles are created in childhood. I think that is amazing. And in childhood, our attachment styles that we develop in childhood is going to influence the behaviors that we have in the relationships with people, romantic, friendships, workplace. I see it all the time at work, right? I'm just like, what kind of childhood did you have, right? So it's amazing when you think about it. But then, how is the attachment theory applied in therapy? We have these relationships with people, right? Family, friends, coworkers, romantic, platonic, however the case you want to put it. But we need to understand, why sometimes it's a pattern in these types of relationships, pattern in how you are with these type of people and how it originated, from our own early attachment experiences, right? So the therapist is going to be focusing on that secure base, and that secure base is who? Our caregivers, parents, guardians, whoever the case may be. But were they consistent with you when it came to emotions, caring about your emotions? Were they consistent with that? Were you hugged as a child? Like, that's why, like, did you get a lot of hugs when you were growing up? Did your parents tell you I love you when you were growing up? Like, that's that secure base that we're talking about. It's, were you neglected? Was it trauma as a child? That is definitely going to shape. Sorry, I had to sneeze. That is definitely going to shape your attachment style, right? So, alrighty. And I think I mentioned this in EFT, but the attachment theory draws in EFT. It is heavily used in EFT because, again, your attachment style is created in your childhood. How is that going to influence how you are in a romantic relationship? It's just as easy as that. Do you have attachment injuries? If so, how can we heal it? Right? ABFT, that's the attachment based family therapy. Psychodynamic therapy, because it digs in what? It goes back to the past, early attachment relationships that you have. Schema therapy. Now, this was something new, and because I like to do research, that's how I came. Like, I looked up this, and I'm just like, I've never heard of that. Schema therapy before identifies and heals deeply, deeply those maladaptive beliefs that are formed in your early childhood. Like, it's amazing. And I looked into schema therapy too, but I'm not going to look into it. I might do a video for it. Don't quote me on that. I'm not going to confuse anybody, okay? The therapist stands in attachment theory is what? Because it's all about that bond that you have. Curious, empowering, right? Attuned. I gotta provide safety, especially when it comes to your emotions. I gotta be attuned to that because, in your early childhood, you didn't have that. So now as a therapist, I have to give that to you. And I also have to be consistent, and especially working on like that trust, because in your childhood, was that something that you didn't have? Could you not trust your caregivers? Did they say they were going to do it and didn't do it? Did they drop you off somewhere and then they didn't come back? And the therapist also has to be reliable. I to my clients, if I'm using attachment theory, I have to let them know that they can trust me, because I have to show them that I can be trusted, and I have to show them that I am reliable, and that I am going to help provide that emotional safety and an understanding in that therapy room. We are going to explore a lot of your childhood histories and things that happen, but I'm not here blaming anybody. We're just going to explore it, right? And at the same time, I want my clients to be autonomous, because there are times, like even growing up as a kid, that they were controlled themselves. They didn't have autonomy. I want them to have autonomy, right? Okay, and in the early phase, this is establishing that emotional safety that I was talking about, as well as having a secure base. So we become that secure base for them. And we're going to do that how? That's the trust, that's the reliance, creating an emotional safety for them. That client is going to be able to talk about their past experiences that also is now impacting or shaping their present experiences that they are having in their current relationships. That client is also going to be able to identify the patterns, the behaviors, and some of the attachment styles that they might possibly have, right? So in the middle phase, this is us exploring. We want to explore more. We are gathering deeper insight into some of those attachment injuries that that client might have, right? And there might be painful emotions that they are haven't had the opportunity to bring to the surface because they didn't feel safe enough to do it. But that grief, that shame, and that anger, that therapist wants to know, right? That therapist wants to know about it. So the client is going to be able to, the childhood experiences that they have, I want you to connect that to what's going on presently with you, as well as also what you got going on in your relationships. And then we're going to learn how to regulate some of those emotions that you're having that it still seem to be impacting from your childhood. But then we're also going to be working on practicing new relational behaviors in therapy as well as outside of the therapy room. We got to put it into practice. We can do it in therapy all we want to, but then when it gets to the outside of therapy, you got to still apply it. Late phase. This is your integration and your consolidation. We are now talking about the gains that you've made in therapy, the goals that you have made in therapy. We are solidifying any of those new relational behaviors that you've learned in therapy to what's going on presently in your relationship, right? That client is going to be doing what? We have to have that self-compassion component. We have to work on maintaining our emotionals, reactions that we have to situations, and we are going to be doing what? Reflecting on that new narrative. See, I like that. I like that, right? We are going to be then practicing our secure relationship skills in life, because when we were growing up as a kid, we probably didn't have that. We didn't have that consistency, someone that we could rely on, someone that we could trust. But once you learn how to do that in therapy, now you're going to apply it in real life. Isn't that something that this model is life? If I want to say, like, this model is life. It is your life from your childhood to now, right? And then, of course, we're going to go over some of the key terms. Attachment. That is the emotional bond between that child and that caregiver. And that emotional bond that you have with that caregiver is going to influence your future relationships. Your attachment style is the patterns and how you're going to relate to other people. And of course, it's going to be shaped by your early relationships. There's secure attachment, where that's the confidence that you have. You have independence. It's safe. You have the safe, and it's healthy. Then you have the insecure attachment. That's the anxiety or the avoidance that you're going to have in relationships because you were neglected or you were rejected by your caregivers, right? But then the internal working model, these are just the mental blueprints that we have for our relationships. How is it treated? How, it was formed in early attachment experiences, but, what does it actually look like? And then a secure base, that's the safety, that's the reliable person that you are going to have in your life, and it's going to be the therapist. And when you're in therapy, it's the therapist, right? And then safe haven, that's your source of comfort and your support. But when we don't have those secure bases, when we don't have those safe havens, what happens? We develop a certain type of attachment style when we don't have those two, the secure base and the safe haven. I am going to do a video for the attachment styles separately because I didn't want this video to be too long. This is just superficial. But then, yes, I am going to do attachment styles. So don't worry, I will be doing the attachment styles, going over the secure attachment, avoidance, and everything. But then that comes along the lines of digging deeper into some of the trauma aspects. And I didn't want to confuse anyone with this model. But like I said, this is just superficial. This is just basic. Just a slight basic understanding of the attachment theory, not too much to actually learn, but go ahead, feel free, leave me a comment, questions, or any concerns that you have regarding this video, and of course, I am going to respond. I so appreciate each and every one of you. I hope to talk to you all soon.